Hi everyone, welcome back to AWS Daily Series Day 4. And in this video, we are going to learn about AWS IAM. So, first of all, what exactly is IAM? IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. In simple words, IAM is a service that helps us to control who can access AWS resources and what actions they can perform. Now, you may ask, why do we need IAM? Let's understand this with a simple real time example. Imagine you're working in a company that uses AWS. There are developers, testers, DevOps engineers, and administrators. Should everyone have full access to all AWS resources? Definitely not. For example, a developer may need access to EC2 instance and S3, and a tester may only need access to test environments, and an administrator need full control over the AWS account. So, how do we control all these permissions? That's exactly where IAM comes in. IAM help us to decide who can access AWS, which resources they can access, and what actions they can perform. And this makes AWS secure and easy to manage. Now, let's understand how IAM works. Suppose a user tries to access an AWS resource. IAM first verifies the identity of that user. Okay, then it checks the permissions assigned to that user. Based on those permissions, IAM either allows or denies the request. So, in a simple way, user requests the access, then IAM check the permission whether this access is allowed or denied. Okay, that is how IAM protects AWS resources. Now, let's understand the key components of the IAM. The first one is user. User represents a person or an application that needs access to AWS. For example, you can take names like Ashita, Bharat, or a deployment application, and each can have their own IAM user account. Next comes group. Okay, group is simply a collection of users. So instead of assigning permission to users one by one, we can assign permission to a group itself. For example, developer group, tester group, and admin group. Okay, any user added to that group automatically gets those permissions. Now, let's talk about roles. A role is a special IAM identity that provides temporary access. Unlike users, roles do not have permanent credentials. For example, suppose an EC2 instance need access to files stored in Amazon S3. So instead of storing access keys inside the server, we can attach IAM roles to that EC2 instance. That role provides temporary permissions whenever needed. Okay, this is the recommended and most secure approach. Next comes policies. Policies are the documents that define permissions. They specify which actions are allowed or denied, or which AWS resources can be accessed. For example, a policy may allow reading files from an S3 bucket, or starting or stopping EC2 instances, or it may explicitly deny certain actions. We can simply put it as policies defines permissions and IAM enforces them. Now, let's talk about credentials. IAM user can authenticate using username and password, access keys, and multi-factor authentication, that is MFA. These credentials help to verify user identity before granting access. Now, let's discuss some additional important concepts. The first one is MFA. Okay, multi-factor authentication. This MFA adds an extra layer of security by requiring a verification code in addition to the password. Okay, and this significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized access. Another important concept is STS, which stands for Security Token Service. This STS provides temporary credentials that are commonly used with IAM rules. This is more secure than using long term access keys. IAM also supports tags. You can think of them like labels that help you to organize and manage your IAM resources more easily. And there is another helpful feature called IAM Access Analyzer. So it checks your permission and it will alert you if any access is too broad or potentially risky. That will help you to improve security. Now, let's look at some common use cases of IAM. Companies use IAM to give users only the permissions they actually need. Okay, and it also helps applications to securely access AWS services without sharing credentials. IAM roles can also be used to provide secure access between different AWS accounts. And many organizations use IAM to manage permissions for the CI/CD pipelines as well. And finally, IAM helps teams audit and monitor who is accessing AWS resources and what actions they are performing. Now, let's talk about some IAM best practices. First, always follow the principle of least privilege. In simple terms, give users only the permission they need to do their job. And to make permission management easier, use groups whenever possible. Okay. And it is also a good practice to enable MFA for all the users to add an extra level of security. And whenever possible, use IAM rules instead of long-term access keys because this is more secure approach. And finally, regularly review your IAM policies and permissions to make sure users have the right level of access. Now, here is a very common interview question. What is the difference between IAM user and an IAM role? The answer is quite simple. An IAM user represents a person or an application and typically uses long-term credential to access AWS resources. On the other hand, an IAM role provides a temporary permissions and is used only when access is needed. Okay. This is a very important interview question, so make sure you remember it. So, if I explain AWS IAM in one single line, AWS IAM helps you to securely manage access to AWS resources by controlling who can access them and what actions they can perform. I hope you got it. Alright everyone, that's all for today's video. In the next video of this AWS Daily Series, we'll learn another important AWS service. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep learning and have a great day.